There comes a moment in every person's life when they begin to sense that the world they see is only a small layer of what truly exists within them. How the Master Key to Riches Works in Life is a book written for that moment, the quiet crossroads where a person begins to ask deeper questions about purpose, possibility, and the unseen forces shaping their path. This book guides the reader like a gentle mentor, showing that real wealth begins not in money, but in the mind, the spirit, and the commitments we make to our inner growth. At its heart, the book teaches that every individual carries a master key inside them, a set of mental, emotional, and spiritual principles that can unlock prosperity, success, and fulfillment. This master key is not a mysterious object, it is a way of thinking, a way of responding, a way of living intentionally. The book does not glorify shortcuts or miracles, instead, it unveils the timeless truth that the richest lives are built through clarity of purpose, disciplined thought, and alignment with higher values. One of the first lessons the book shares is the power of definiteness of purpose. It argues that most people drift not because they lack talent, but because they do not know what they genuinely want. The mind, like a river, needs direction, otherwise, it spreads thin and becomes shallow. The book illustrates this with the example of a young man who spends years moving from job to job, never understanding why life feels stagnant. Only when he commits to a single direction, even one that initially feels modest, does his entire world begin to shift. Suddenly, opportunities emerge, mentors appear, and inner energy awakens. This is the master key at work. When you choose a direction, life begins to organize itself around your choice. The book also emphasizes that thought is creative energy. Every belief, whether empowering or limiting, becomes a seed. When you nurture fear, life reflects fear. When you cultivate courage, life responds with possibilities. This is not superstition, it is the psychological reality that your inner story shapes your outer results. The book gives the example of a woman who grew up hearing that wealth was sinful and success was selfish. Even though she worked tirelessly, she could never keep money, because somewhere in her subconscious she believed she didn't deserve it. Only when she began rewriting her inner beliefs, understanding that wealth could be a blessing, a tool for service, did her finances begin to stabilize and grow. This transformation did not come from external luck, but from internal alignment. Such is the quiet power of the master key. Change the inner blueprint, and the outer structure follows. Another foundational idea is the law of organized effort. Success does not come from scattered attempts, it comes from persistent, purposeful action. The book reminds us that even great dreams lose their meaning if they are not supported by daily effort. It explains that the master key works like the gears of a well-built machine. Each action, each decision, each habit interlocks with the next. The author gives the example of a small business owner who struggled for years, not because he lacked skill, but because his efforts were unstructured. Once he divided his goals into clear steps and executed them consistently, his business slowly but steadily bloomed. The book teaches that you do not need to take giant leaps, you only need to take disciplined steps, every single day, in the direction of your purpose. The master key also teaches the profound importance of controlling the inner dialogue. The book reveals that the human mind is always speaking, offering commentary, opinion, fear, or encouragement. This voice shapes everything. People who cultivate constructive self-talk rise naturally, even during difficult moments, because their inner world becomes a source of strength. Meanwhile, people who repeat negative internal messages create invisible chains around themselves. The author gives the example of an athlete who won multiple championships not merely because of physical ability, but because his inner voice always said, "I will find a way." That sentence became his master key. It unlocked endurance during exhaustion, creativity during challenge, and courage during uncertainty. The book goes further by exploring the principle of faith, not in a religious sense alone, but as the quiet confidence that life responds to our convictions. Faith is the engine that gives energy to thought. Without faith, the mind weakens. With faith, it becomes a magnet for possibilities. The author describes people who faced overwhelming obstacles but succeeded because they carried an unshakable belief in their vision. Faith does not remove challenges, but it transforms the person facing them. It turns fear into strength, doubt into resilience, confusion into clarity. The book teaches that anyone can cultivate this faith through repetition, visualization, gratitude, and disciplined thought. When you practice believing in a better reality, slowly your inner world reshapes itself to match that belief. Another core insight is the role of adversity. The book does not sugarcoat life, it acknowledges that hardship is a universal teacher. But instead of viewing adversity as punishment, the book frames it as preparation. It explains that challenges refine your character, deepen your understanding, and sharpen your abilities. Many of the world's most extraordinary achievements were born in the fires of difficulty. A person who loses a job may discover their true calling. A person who experiences heartbreak may discover self-worth. A business owner who faces failure may develop the strategy that eventually leads to success. The Master Key teaches that adversity is never the end, it is simply the carving of the stone before the sculpture emerges. The book also introduces the principle of harmonious relationships. This may seem unrelated to wealth, but the book emphasizes that no one succeeds alone. Supportive relationships create emotional stability, creative collaboration, and spiritual nourishment. Toxic relationships, on the other hand, drain energy, blur focus, and weaken inner strength. The Master Key to Riches works most effectively when a person is surrounded by people who uplift, inspire, and challenge them to grow. The author shares the example of a man whose life transformed not because his circumstances changed, but because he changed his circle. He moved from companions who criticized every dream to mentors who encouraged every possibility. That shift in environment became the fuel for his growth. A powerful message in the book is the value of service. True richness is not measured only by what you accumulate, but by what you contribute. Service connects you to a larger purpose and opens channels of reward that go far beyond physical wealth. When you help others rise, you rise. When you offer value, opportunities return to you in unexpected ways. The book illustrates this with stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and ordinary individuals whose lives blossomed because they chose to serve with sincerity. The Master Key teaches that giving is not a loss, it is an investment in spiritual abundance. Finally, the book reveals that the Master Key is not a one-time revelation, it is a lifelong practice. You do not unlock riches in a single moment, you unlock them through continuous awareness, intentional living, and alignment with your deepest values. This Master Key is a companion, a teacher, a quiet whisper guiding you toward your highest potential. It works when you work it. It grows when you grow. And as you evolve, the riches you experience expand beyond money into peace, meaning, relationships, fulfillment, and a sense of divine partnership with life. In the end, how the Master Key to Riches works in life reminds us that we are not powerless beings drifting through chance. We are creators, sculptors of possibility, and carriers of a unique inner blueprint. The Master Key resides within each of us, waiting to be awakened through purpose, discipline, faith, and service. When we choose to live consciously, intentionally, and in harmony with universal principles, life opens in ways far beyond imagination. It is not a magic trick, it is a transformation of the self. And through that transformation, we discover what true richness feels like. A life aligned with meaning, guided by clarity, and filled with the quiet confidence that every dream is within reach.